Have you ever realized that the loudest person in the room is usually the weakest one? The one who tries the hardest to be heard, to be seen, to prove something, often hides a trembling insecurity beneath the noise. But what if I told you that real power doesn't shout? It doesn't beg to be understood. It simply is. What if silence, not words, was the ultimate form of power? Think about it. When you walk into a room and someone says nothing, yet everyone feels their presence, what is that? It's not charisma. It's not luck. It's something far deeper, composure. The kind of presence that comes from someone who no longer needs to prove their worth. That, Nietzsche believed, is the mark of true strength, the spirit that no longer wastes itself reacting to the world, but stands above it. We live in an age of constant noise, endless opinions, debates, and digital shouting matches. Everyone wants to be right. Everyone wants to win the argument. But here's the truth few can face. When you argue to prove your value, you've already lost it. Because real power doesn't explain itself. It doesn't need to. So today, I'm going to take you into a space most people fear. The space between words. The place where silence reveals who truly holds control. If you have the courage to face yourself there, this might be the most important lesson you ever learn. Before we dive in, stay until the end of this video. What you'll discover will change the way you see conflict, communication, and even your own mind. And if you want to keep walking this path of awareness, of depth, philosophy, and self-mastery, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. That way, you'll be the first to receive the next lesson that might just awaken something sleeping deep within you. Look around you. The modern world has become a stage, and everyone is performing. Online, at work, even in relationships, everyone is trying to be right, to be seen, to be validated. We argue not to understand, but to win. We speak not to connect, but to prove that we matter. Every post, every debate, every "I'm fine" that hides a silent scream underneath. It's all part of the same obsession, the fear of being invisible. And so, we talk louder, faster, more aggressively, as if the volume of our words could drown out the insecurity that lives in silence. But the more we shout, the less we hear. The more we try to prove our worth, the further we drift from it. Nietzsche saw this sickness long before social media existed. He warned that when we constantly seek approval from others, we hand them our power. We let the world define our value instead of finding it within. And that's why so many people today feel exhausted, anxious, disconnected, because their sense of self is scattered across every comment section and conversation, waiting for someone to validate it. In psychology, Carl Jung called this the inflation of the ego. It happens when the fragile self tries to appear bigger, louder, more important than it really is to hide the terror of being ordinary. You can see it everywhere. The coworker who interrupts every meeting. The friend who posts motivational quotes but crumbles alone. The partner who turns every disagreement into a battle of pride. They're all fighting the same invisible enemy, the fear of silence, because silence forces them to hear the truth. The truth that maybe, just maybe, they don't really know who they are without someone else's reaction. We've mistaken expression for power, when in reality, it's control over expression that defines strength. Every time you react to defend yourself, to prove your point, to protect your ego, you give away a piece of your inner stability. You become a puppet of emotion, dancing to the rhythm of every trigger around you. And that's why modern life feels so draining, because we're constantly reacting instead of being. But what if you could reverse it? What if you could walk through conflict, through criticism, through noise, untouched, calm, grounded, silent, but radiating a force that makes others stop talking first? That's not arrogance, that's mastery. And this mastery begins where words end. Nietzsche believed that wisdom doesn't come from noise, but from the space we create when we stop trying to fill it. Silence, he said, isn't emptiness, it's potential. It's the place where truth whispers after the ego runs out of breath. And in that space, you discover the one thing every loud person fears the most: peace. So ask yourself, how many of your arguments, your explanations, your posts, your replies were truly necessary? And how many were just noise, your ego trying to prove that it still matters? The mind addicted to being heard will never learn to listen, and the one who cannot listen will never understand. In this next part, we'll explore how Nietzsche turned this realization into a philosophy of power, why he believed that silence, not speech, is the weapon of the strong, and how mastering it changes everything about how you move in the world. But before we go deeper, I want you to pause and reflect. Have you ever caught yourself speaking just to defend your image? Have you ever felt that painful urge to explain yourself to be understood, only to end up more misunderstood than before? Share your experience in the comments below. Tell me a story, your story. I'll read it, and I'll respond. Because your reflection might be the very mirror someone else needs to finally see themselves. Friedrich Nietzsche was not a man of comfort. He believed that truth does not come to those who talk, but to those who listen to their own depths. He once said, "The higher we soar, the smaller we appear to those who cannot fly." And what he meant was simple. When you begin to rise above the noise, those still trapped in it will mistake your silence for weakness, because they cannot understand the strength it takes to say nothing. Nietzsche saw that most people are ruled by their reactions. They live like puppets pulled by invisible strings of pride, fear, and insecurity. When someone offends them, they react. When someone doubts them, they explain. When someone provokes them, they fight. But in every reaction, they reveal their chains. They expose that they are still controlled by the opinions of others. And the person who can be controlled is never truly free. For Nietzsche, power was not about domination or loud defiance, it was about self-mastery. He called this ideal the Bermensch, the overman, a being who transcends the petty emotions that keep ordinary people enslaved to validation. The Bermensch doesn't fight every battle because he knows that most battles are traps disguised invitations to lose control. Instead, he observes, he chooses. He remains still while others exhaust themselves in chaos. That stillness is not passivity, it is command. Silence, in Nietzsche's eyes, was not the absence of speech, it was the presence of clarity. To stay silent is to refuse to be dragged into someone else's confusion. To remain calm while the world demands reaction is to remind everyone, especially yourself, that you are no longer playing by their rules. He who fights monsters must take care not to become one, Nietzsche warned. Because every time you engage in senseless conflict, you mirror the energy you claim to despise. You begin to speak like them, think like them, react like them, and in that moment, your silence would have been the more revolutionary act. Silence is not cowardice, it's strategy, it's not withdrawal, it's wisdom. The one who remains silent does not surrender, they calculate. They let the noise reveal its own foolishness. They let the impatient destroy themselves. Because while words are impulsive, silence is deliberate. And deliberate people control the rhythm of every interaction without ever needing to raise their voice. In the modern American workplace, we call this composure. It's the quiet strength of a leader who doesn't rush to fill every pause in a meeting, who listens longer than others can bear, who speaks only when it matters, and when they finally do, everyone listens. That's not coincidence. It's psychological gravity. When your words are rare, they carry weight. When you don't chase approval, people start chasing yours. That's how influence is born, not through persuasion, but through presence. Think of the great leaders, artists, and thinkers you admire. They don't shout, they embody. Their calm unsettles those who are addicted to chaos. Their silence intimidates those who need validation to feel alive. Because deep down, everyone senses it. The one who can stay silent is the one who doesn't fear loss. And the one who doesn't fear loss cannot be controlled. This is the essence of Nietzsche's power, to rise above reaction, to let the world's noise fade into the background while you act with precision and purpose. To him, the greatest victory was not defeating others, it was defeating the compulsion to react to them. So the next time someone provokes you, remember, you don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. The silence you choose might humiliate their ego more than any clever response ever could, because your calm exposes their chaos. And in that contrast, your power becomes undeniable. Tell me, have you ever seen silence change a situation? Maybe you stayed quiet in an argument, and suddenly the other person lost control. Maybe your stillness revealed more than words ever could. Share that moment in the comments below. Your story might help someone else realize that silence isn't emptiness. It's the sound of true strength. There's a reason silence unnerves people. It isn't just the absence of sound. It is the mirror it holds up to their own mind. Modern psychology has begun to reveal what Nietzsche sensed intuitively more than a century ago. That silence destabilizes the ego because it removes its favorite weapon, reaction. When a person speaks, argues, or provokes, they expect a response. The brain as amygdala, the region responsible for emotional reactivity, anticipates a predictable pattern. I attack, you defend. I accuse, you explain. I raise my voice, you meet me there. But when that pattern breaks, when you do nothing, the system panics. The silence creates a vacuum that their mind rushes to fill. It triggers anxiety, doubt, and projection. They start asking themselves, did I go too far? Are they judging me? Do they know something I don't? Their imagination becomes their punishment. And you, by staying centered, have already won the battle without saying a word. Neuroscientists call this the amygdala hijack. When people are caught in emotional confrontation, their rational brain shuts down. Their body floods with stress hormones. They lose access to logic, empathy, and composure. But if you remain calm, your prefrontal cortex, the seat of reason, stays online. You see everything clearly while they drown in noise. Silence, therefore, isn't passive. It's neurological dominance. Nietzsche might not have known the brain's anatomy, but he understood the psychology. The one who cannot command himself must obey. And to command oneself in the face of provocation, that is the rarest strength of all. You can see this principle everywhere if you pay attention. In an argument between lovers, the one who stays silent, breathing slowly, holding their ground, will almost always regain control first. The one who shouts loses clarity. The one who listens gains power. In a business negotiation, the best negotiators understand that silence is a weapon. They make an offer, then say nothing. The other side scrambles to fill the void, often revealing their real position. Even in politics or media, those who stay calm during attacks appear stronger, more trustworthy, more intelligent. Those who lash out appear desperate. This is why Nietzsche said, "He who cannot control himself is controlled by others." Every reaction is a leash, and the louder you are, the shorter the leash becomes. But silence is not easy. It takes practice to master the anxiety that rises when you say nothing. We are conditioned from childhood to fill every gap with explanation, apology, or justification. When we stay quiet, our ego feels exposed. It whispers, say something, defend yourself, prove you're right. That's not strength speaking, that's fear. Silence, by contrast, is the sound of confidence. It's the absence of desperation. It's the mind saying, I am enough. I don't need to win this moment to know my worth. This doesn't mean you never speak. It means you choose when and how. Silence gives your words precision. It filters out reaction and replaces it with intention. When you finally do speak, every sentence lands with gravity because people have learned to wait for it. And this waiting, this psychological tension, is what gives the silent mind its mysterious power. Think about it. When someone ignores a provocation, doesn't rush to reply, doesn't justify, what happens inside you? You start wondering what they're thinking, what they feel, what they'll do next. That curiosity, that uncertainty, is psychological dominance. The silent person doesn't just control the room. They control time. They slow everything down. And in a world addicted to speed and noise, the ability to slow time is the ultimate authority. Nietzsche's idea of mastery wasn't about conquering others, but conquering impulse, the primitive urge to prove, to react, to defend. He saw that most people are slaves not because they are weak, but because they cannot endure silence. They can't bear to face their own thoughts without distraction. And so, they keep talking, posting, arguing, mistaking activity for strength. Meanwhile, the one who can stand still, silent, unshaken, that's the one who truly commands life. The Stoics said it long before Nietzsche. A man who masters himself, masters all. Your silence, then, is not emptiness. It's mastery disguised as restraint. Have you ever experienced this? A moment when you chose silence instead of reaction, and suddenly everything shifted. The other person calmed down, or lost control, or simply revealed who they truly were. Share that story in the comments. Understanding the philosophy of silence is one thing. Living it, especially in a world that rewards noise, is another. The art of silence is not a philosophy to admire. It's a discipline to practice. And Nietzsche would say, a test of your evolution. Let's start with the most personal battlefield, relationships. When someone you love provokes you, your instinct is to react, to explain, defend, argue, fix. But the truth is, most arguments don't need fixing. They need awareness. The next time someone tries to pull you into emotional chaos, don't respond immediately. Pause. Take a slow breath. Let the silence stretch. Watch what happens. That moment of stillness is not weakness, it's a shift of power. You stop being a participant in their emotional storm and become the calm observer. And in that pause, two things occur. You regain control of your own nervous system, and you expose theirs. Your silence forces them to meet their own discomfort, their own fear of losing control. If they're capable of growth, they'll soften. If they're not, they'll rage louder, and in that, you'll see their truth clearly for the first time. The same principle applies at work. In the modern American workplace, people equate confidence with assertiveness, constant speaking, constant visibility. But that's not power. That's insecurity dressed in corporate language. Watch the true leaders. They don't compete for attention. They speak less, but their words shape the room. They have what psychologists call psychological gravity, an energy that draws respect without demanding it. When you stop trying to prove your value, people start feeling it. Imagine a meeting where everyone is talking over each other, pitching ideas, defending egos. Then, someone simply sits back, listens, and waits. When they finally speak, the room goes silent. Why? Because silence creates contrast. It amplifies presence, and presence is what power feels like. Nietzsche believed that creation arises out of restraint, not excess. The person who can delay their reaction, who can hold back the impulse to explain or justify, is the one who directs the flow of every interaction. It's the same in negotiation, leadership, and influence. The less you say, the more control you have. But the deepest level of silence is not external. It's internal. It's the silence within your own mind. The ability to stop the endless monologue of anxiety, guilt, and comparison. This is what Nietzsche meant when he spoke about the Übermensch, not a superhuman being, but a person who has conquered their own inner noise. He or she no longer needs the world's validation, because they've learned to listen to the quiet voice inside, the one that speaks truth without shouting. How do you cultivate that inner silence? Start by observing your reactions. Notice the moment your pulse quickens, your jaw tightens, your mind rushes to reply. That's the ego preparing for battle. Instead of joining it, breathe. Step back. Let the thought pass through you like a wave. You are not your reaction, you are the space it moves through. That space is your power. You can also train it through meditation or journaling. Meditation teaches you to be comfortable with emptiness, to sit with the discomfort of not needing to fill the silence. Journaling helps you translate the noise in your head into something visible, something you can release. Both are tools to strengthen the muscle of stillness. Over time, silence stops being something you do and becomes something you are. You walk into a room and people feel it. You speak less but mean more. You no longer chase closure, validation, or victory. You simply exist as a calm center in a restless world. And something magical happens. The chaos around you starts to bend toward your calm. Because energy seeks balance, and silence is balance in its purest form. This is the transformation Nietzsche pointed to, the journey from reaction to creation, from noise to meaning. You don't have to control others. You only have to master yourself. The rest follows naturally. Now I want to hear from you. Where in your life do you most struggle to stay silent? Is it in arguments with your partner, at work, with family, or within your own thoughts? Share your story or insight in the comments below. Tell me which part of this message resonated with you most deeply. Your reflection might be exactly what someone else needs to find. Power isn't in what you say, it's in what you no longer need to explain. That's the paradox Nietzsche understood better than anyone. True strength is not loud, it's quiet. It doesn't announce itself, it radiates. It doesn't seek validation, because it is validation. When you stop needing to prove who you are, you begin to become who you are. And that's where freedom begins. Silence is not the absence of power, it's the purest form of it. It is the sound of someone who no longer reacts because they understand. It's the calm that comes after you've faced your own darkness and realized that no opinion, no insult, no rejection can touch what's real inside you. That's why Nietzsche never taught manipulation. He taught transcendence. He wanted you to rise above the noise, to see that the world's chaos only controls you if you believe it defines you. Every argument you refuse to join, every insult you choose not to absorb, every moment you let silence speak for you, you are reclaiming something sacred, your inner authority. Because silence doesn't kill your voice, it refines it. It turns every word you choose to speak into thunder. And when that happens, you stop chasing respect, because respect begins chasing you. You stop explaining yourself to people who can't hear you, because your presence speaks louder than explanation ever could. You stop fearing disapproval, because you finally understand that the only approval that matters is the quiet one that comes from your own soul. That is the awakening. When you can stand in a room full of noise, of opinion, of pressure, and remain unmoved, not out of pride, but out of peace. That's when you know you've crossed the threshold from being reactive to being real, from being loud to being powerful. Nietzsche once wrote, "I want to teach men the sense of their own being." To be silent, then, is not to withdraw from life, it's to reclaim it. It's to live with such intention, such clarity, that you no longer waste a single breath proving what already is. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, pause. Feel the impulse rise. Feel the fire in your chest that wants to defend, to fight, to explain. And then let it go. Watch what happens. Watch how their noise consumes them and how your silence shields you. In that stillness, you'll realize you've already won. Not because you're above them, but because you're no longer beneath your own need to be seen. That's real liberation. That's what Nietzsche meant when he said the highest form of human is the one who creates his own values. Silence, my friend, is the first value of freedom. Now, if this message spoke to something deep within you, if it made you see yourself, your relationship,